What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you an expanded deck that I got from, I believe it was Micaiah Hall, I think is how you say it. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. And it was a deck that he used in the St. Louis Regionals in the Junior Division, centered around Raikou and Eels, as well as a bunch of other cool attackers that really makes this almost like an Eels toolbox deck, but basically the main strategy is around Raikou and Eelektrik. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and click that subscribe button. Helps us out a lot and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, I spent a while trying to think of a good question of the day, but I decided that I'm just going to go with the cop-out one. What is your favorite electric type Pokemon and why? I mean, this deck is centered around electric types. Yes, there's a fighting, there's a psychic, there's a water, and then of course there's the omnipresent Shaymin, which is normal. But what is your favorite electric type? Yes, I know it's lightning in the TCG, but forget it. It's actually electric, and why? Leave that in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. But as for me, my favorite electric type would have to be actually Ampharos, and I know that that is not necessarily a particularly popular opinion, but when I played through Gen 2, I always would find myself catching a Mareep early on and evolving it into Ampharos, because when Mareep evolved into Flaffy and into Ampharos, it all of a sudden had access to the elemental punches, which you could buy in TMs from Goldenrod City. So immediately I had an Ampharos that had fire, lightning, or fire, electric, not lightning. Wow, I've been playing the TCG too long. But fire, electric, and ice coverage immediately right off the bat that early in the game. That was so ridiculously strong. And actually, wait, I'm not sure if Ampharos got all of them, but either way, I know it got fantastic coverage very, very early in the game. So that was always one of the staples of my team, just having a very powerful special attacker that can hit very hard with super effective coverage for a lot of mons very early, and also it was very bulky as well. So it was one of those that I always found room on my team for whenever I did a Gen 2 playthrough, although in Heart Gold Soul Silver I didn't, just because you didn't have access to the elemental punches until later in the game, or at least I'm pretty sure. I don't know, it's been a while since I played those games. But then in Gen 6, Ampharos also got a Mega Evolution, which made it a Lightning Dragon, which awesome type coverage. I love that thing. It is so unique, it's so strong. Yes, I know Zekrom has it too, but I mean, come on. It's a dragon type Ampharos with the most fabulous hair in the entire game. It was part of one of my favorite UU teams back then too. Yes, I know almost all my questions stem back to UU, but it really was my favorite tier. I mean, Gen 6 UU was my favorite tier of all time. So any teams that I made and had success with have a special spot in my heart, and Ampharos was a linchpin of one of those teams. So yeah, favorite electric type is Ampharos. Let me know what your guys' favorite electric type is and why. But anyway, on to the deck. Like I said, this deck was used at St. Louis Regionals, and really, once I saw the list, I was like, I have to do a live with this. This is such a cool list, because not only does it center around Raikou Eelektrik, which I've been wanting to do for a while, but it also has just a myriad of other attackers as well, and other options to deal with certain matchups. I mean, you have the Jolteon, which, to be fair, is kind of already in Raikou Eels to begin with, just because, I mean, it's free retreat, flash ray, makes your opponent expend resources to be able to get rid of that effect on Jolteon against a lot of basic decks. So very, very strong, and just kind of always in those decks. Also in the decks quite frequently is Mewtwo, although I have seen a lot of decks recently that just forego the Mewtwo. They just go straight Raikou, Jolteon, and Eels. I mean, which I completely understand. I like having the tech of Mewtwo, just being able to power that thing up with Dynamotor and then X-Ball for a ton of damage. As for the other two attackers, we have one Seismitoad. Honestly, it's so cool just to have the item lock option in this deck. Seismitoad's also great for the Night March matchup, because with a Fighting Fury Belt, Seismitoad's not going to go down in one hit. You'll be able to knock out Jolteon in one hit as well, and really, it's just an awesome option to have in this deck. I really do enjoy having Seismitoad, especially if we're running DCE as well as Lightning. I mean, might as well. helps out with a ton of matchups. You can take advantage of Rough Seas. It takes advantage of Fighting Fury Belt as well. It's just an excellent other attacker in this deck. And finally, we have Gallade with Premonition. There is a Maxie's Gallade option in this deck too. So really, this deck, I know I've said option like 50 bajillion times by now, but this deck has so many cool tech options that, I mean, I just had to run it. This is clearly my well, not clearly. This is very much my favorite version of Raikou Eels that I have seen. And yeah, I mean, I know that some other more straightforward options or more straightforward decks of Raikou Eels have had more success. I actually just prefer the more options just because it makes the game a lot more fun. As for the numbers of Pokemon, one Shaymin, just one Shaymin because Shaymin is Shaymin, and actually I've seen a ton of Raikou Eels decks. Well, not a ton, I've seen a couple just completely forego Shaymin. They have Jirachi in that place, but I think that Shaymin is way too strong to not have the option of, and I would rather have Shaymin than Jirachi just because Jirachi, yes, it gets you a supporter, but it doesn't always get you the supporter, or it doesn't give you the option to draw without a supporter. So that's why I like Shaymin. One Gallade because of the Maxie's Gallade helps out with the Turbo Dark matchup. Jolteon helps out with the Night March matchup, the Turbo Dark matchup, just a great Techmon. 4 Raikou and then 4/4 of Eels. Center of the deck, want to make sure we have maxed out numbers to be able to use them whenever we want to. 1 Mewtwo as a tech option, 1 Seismitoad as a tech option. Again, so much fun to use those guys. 3 Battle Compressor because we do rely on having Lightning in the discard pile to be able to use Dynamotor, so we have to worry about that. And also this activates our supporters if we have a VS Seeker in our hand. And of course, Battle Compressor also gets the Gallade in the discard pile. This is where I really like the creativity of this deck, because in Raikou Eels, you're already using Battle Compressor to get Lightning and supporters in the discard pile. And apparently he thought, I'm trying not to say his first name because I really don't want to butcher it as much as I already know that I have. But he obviously thought, well, if I'm already using a bunch of Battle Compressor and having my strategy rely on that, I might as well throw a Maxie and Gallade in there. That way I can use those guys if I ever play my hand down to 1 with a VS Seeker or a Maxie's, to be able to just play the Gallade and have another backup attacker and also be able to control the draws that I get from my deck. So just very awesome option. I'm sorry, like I know I keep saying that, but I really just do love the creativity and the out-of-the-box thinking that led to a lot of the different options in this deck. 1 Computer Search, obvious, Computer Search is great. 1 Evosoda to kind of act as a pseudo Level Ball, just be able to play that down, immediately evolve a Tynamo into an Eelektrik. 1 Level Ball, 4 Tynamo and Eelektrik. 3 Trainers Mail, help with consistency, be able to just like look at the top 4 cards, get whatever you want. 4 Ultra Ball, get whatever we want, whenever we want. Well, obviously we had to have the Ultra Ball, but it guaranteed gets us what we want, when we want. And what's cool about this deck is the drawback of discard is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's actually very beneficial because you get Lightning in the discard pile, you get Gallade, you get a Maxie's. Basically, you get good stuff in the discard pile that you can use later. Also, 4 VS Seeker to reuse all of our supporters. This is interesting. Running a max number of Rough Seas, I completely understand it, but this is one of the few non-Skyfield-centric decks that I've seen run 4 stadiums. I guess just to give Raikou and Seismitoad a lot of longevity and also mitigate potential like Landorus Hammerheads or Darkrai Night Spears or Shadow Bullets from Umbreon, stuff like that. Very cool and actually has helped out a lot, so I'm a big fan of the 4 Rough Seas. And then as for the supporters, 1 AZ, I mean, pick up Shaymin, pick up a damaged Raikou. And the thing is, if you have to discard 3 energy from a damaged Raikou with AZ, well, guess what? You just Dynamotor those things back in. So just Dynamotor opens up a lot of plays to be able to just heal a bunch of damage off and go from there and just be like, okay, pick up a Raikou, promote a Jolteon, play the Raikou back down, Dynamotor onto it, play 1 from the hand, boom, my Raikou is back and kicking. So very cool little play that you can make. 1 Hex Maniac, just shut down things like, just basically shut down things like, well, even Pyroar, but you never see Pyroar anymore. just different decks that rely a lot on abilities. Hex Maniac is great for that, and also shut down Vileplume's item locked so that you can use items. 1 Lysandre, because Lysandre is amazing. 3-1 of N and Sycamore. Normally I see a 4-2 and I like to run a 4-2, but considering we're running a couple different tech supporters, had to cut down a little bit on the draw support there, so there's only a 1-3. Didn't mean to scroll over Chrome right there. And then 1 Maxie's for the obvious Gallade Maxie's combo. 2 Fighting Fury Belt, because I mean all of our attackers are basics save for Gallade, and Gallade's actually very bulky, but either way the attackers that we're going to be going with early on are basics. Just gives both of them a lot more longevity when combined with Rough Seas, makes them very difficult to knock out in one hit, to where you're able to just be like, okay, they're damaged, let's retreat, heal up a little more, and go with another attacker. 1 Float Stone, because I mean, these guys have a... well, I guess, nah. Raikou and Jolteon don't have a heavy retreat cost at all. Mewtwo and Gallade both have 2, which isn't the end of the world, but Seismitoad has a nasty 3, so if you do start with that, you're going to want to Float Stone that thing up so you don't have to worry about it. But the thing is, if you start with Seismitoad, we run DCE in this deck. So you're even able to be like, well, it's not ideal, but I can slow my opponent down, just start Quaking Punching, making sure that they don't get an ideal setup while I am able to set up in the background. So even if you do start Seismitoad, it's really not the end of the world. This deck has no particularly bad starters. I mean, actually, never mind. 5 of the starters are bad, so I take that back. But Tynamo, I mean, you don't want to start with it, but it only has a 1 retreat cost, which you can get back with Dynamotor in a lot of situations, so it's not horrible. It's not ideal, but it's not horrible, and it has the ability to paralyze your opponent's Pokemon. So there are ways out of every single starter in this deck. I mean, ideally you start with a Raikou or a Mewtwo or a Seismitoad or a Jolteon, but I mean, if you get a Shaymin, you can Sky Return, you can AZ. If you start with a Tynamo, you can just manually retreat, or you can Thunder Wave, try to paralyze. This deck just has a lot of different options based on whatever Pokemon you end up starting with. And then as for the energy, in a lot of Raikou Eel decks, I know that I keep referencing other decks, but this one is just so unique that I really do like it. They usually just run full lightning energy. This one has 4 DCE, which I'm a big fan of, because it powers up Gallade, Mewtwo, and Seismitoad, and technically Shaymin, in one turn. Can also be used to Thunder Lance for 70 damage. So, I mean, that's worth noting as well. And also, just a single lightning and a DCE allows you to Flash Ray with Jolteon. So, I mean, I'm sorry that I sound so excited and I say the same things over and over about this deck, but this is just so unique, so interesting, that I'm really, really pumped to show you guys this deck in action. So yeah, done talking, let's go ahead and see it. Alrighty, we have found one against Pyro with a, oh, looks like a Trevenant break deck, and I hope you guys appreciated my discount Matty Brawlick that I just did right there. We do win the coin flip, meaning we will get to go first, and that is absolutely gigantic in this matchup. That means we will actually get the chance to set up a couple Raikou, or try to set up a couple Eels here and there, and yeah, it's confirmed. This is 100% a Trevenant break deck, so the thing is, like, if he managed to lock me out turn 1, I would almost have no chance. However, if I'm able to get set up, my Eelektrik will just be able to recycle energy so frequently that I'll be able to 1- and 2-shot Trevenant and Trevenant break with ease while healing up with Rough Seas. So, I mean, that's just going to be invaluable. Rough Seas, I think, even if he did manage to get, like, the item lock turn 1, I would still be able to pull this off. But, wow, I can immediately get rid of the AZ and the lightning energy to grab... Honestly, I'm just going to grab the Tynamo, just because I need to get those guys down as soon as possible. I need to get those in play, get another Raikou down. Let's play the Fighting Fury Belt, play the Float Stone onto my active Raikou. That way I can slowly bring the other one out, and I get a Computer Search. Gonna hold on, gonna keep that in the deck, actually, because while I could grab that, I'd be discarding 2 things that I kind of don't want to have to discard. And plus, this way I have a chance of drawing into it later with my Sycamore that I'm going to play this turn. I am going to go ahead and Battle Compressor, get rid of the Gallade, Maxie's, and the Hex Maniac, just in case I draw into a VS Seeker, so that I can reuse items. And okay, well, not the greatest start, but it's something. I'm going to go ahead and play the DCE onto my Raikou on the bench, just cuz. Yeah, I'm going to hold on to what's in my hand. Actually, I probably should have played down the other Raikou with the Fighting Fury Belt, just because otherwise those would be dead cards. But, I mean, at this point, I don't know. I'm okay with what I did, because even though my opponent can potentially Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, all that stuff, I have 2 Tynamo set up. I have a Rough Seas in case he's able to start going for Silent Fear to where I can delay him being able to knock out my Pokemon. And even though it's not the greatest start in the world, it is a decent start, and I actually think I'm going to be in an okay position for this matchup. My opponent does play a Raichu, or not a Raichu, a Jirachi down. Not sure what they're going to be searching for, because they can just Ascension turn 1 anyway. So it's not, honestly, like, it's not going to be that big of a deal, because Jirachi's really only particularly good in Trevenant Break if you can go ahead and Wally turn 1 before your opponent is even able to make a move. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still good. My opponent red cards me. Okay, should have played the Rough Seas and the Raikou Belt, but actually, you know what? This is okay. Because I draw into an Electric, meaning that I will be able to actually hit this Trevenant this upcoming turn because of the Lightning that I have in my hand. I even get an N, so this is a very, very good hand that my opponent red carded me into, because I can, even though I can't play my Evosoda, which would have been really nice. I mean, I just get to play out my hand completely. I even get some DCEs, which, while I would prefer Lightning Energy, this is actually okay, because I will be able to play the DCEs and, you know, just like continually have a Thunder Lance, because Thunder Lance, while you prefer to have 3 Lightning, I mean, it still functions off colorless energy, so you can use DCEs if your opponent manages to, like, let's see, what will my opponent do? He probably, like, there's a Crushing Hammer, and if you Team Flare Grunts, then he will knock out 3 energy off my Raikou, which, okay, of course, he gets the heads on the Crushing Hammer, but you know what? Even if he gets double Crushing Hammer, or gets Crushing Hammer plus Team Flare Grunt, I still have the DCE in my hand, and that will be enough to even knock out a Trevenant Break. So I'm in a absolutely phenomenal position at this point. I mean, I'd obviously prefer to have a supporter or like a Hex Maniac or something, that way I could abuse Computer Search and my Evosoda, but honestly, like, this is just fine because my opponent's not going to be able to hit me. I even drawn to another DCE, so this is actually okay with me. Because, and yeah, I'm playing the DCE because it can get Enhanced Hammered, but this way, even if my opponent gets like a 2 or 3 energy discard with Enhanced Hammer and Team Flare Grunt, the DCE would still allow me to be able to attack with Thunder Lance for 80 damage, which 2 shots a Trevenant Break. And yeah, my opponent just forfeits. Even though he did have the item lock almost immediately, just that 1 turn of setup was way too much for my opponent, and being able to draw into those energy was very clutch. That way, even if he did discard them, I could continually stream them, and Trevenant just would not be able to keep up, particularly once Rough Seas started just completely nullifying all that he did with Silent Fear. So yeah, I mean, very straightforward first match. Didn't get to show off any of the cool techs, but good first match. Let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against Heroic Banana with a, kind of looks like Night March with Melodic, or Melodic, however you want to say it. I know that really fell out of favor once Puzzle of Time came through, but I mean, it still is a very real possibility, and oh boy. Well, I mean, this is not bad, assuming I can get, like, a Raikou or something in play. That way I can take advantage of the Battle Compressors and the DCE or something like that. But, I mean, this is not a bad start. I mean, I have 2 Tynamo in play. Wait, oh, this is oh, yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, I'm not used to seeing Plasma Expanded. I'm more used to seeing it in Legacy. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still very viable in Expanded. I just feel like it's a lot better in Legacy. But either way, we are up against a Plasma deck. My opponent starts with Deoxys. This is actually going to be a pretty interesting match, I think. I'm pretty sure it's just going to end up where the prize trade is going to be in my favor, and that's what it's going to come down to, assuming, well, depending on whether or not my opponent decides to go the Kurama or the Lugia route. And this, well, it's a little bit worse. I mean, well, actually, no, it's a little bit better, but, I mean, I'm still going to have to get rid of my Evosoda and not be able to take advantage of that. My opponent does get a Lugia going, so that's pretty scary, not going to lie. what I am going to do is immediately get Raikou, Ultra Ball, get rid of the... Okay, do I want to play the Lightning Energy? Actually, no, I'm just going to get rid of the Evosoda because it really doesn't matter. I'm going to grab yet another Tynamo just in case this Tynamo goes down to like a Ride Knuckle or something next turn. Going to discard the Lightning Energy, and wow, okay, this is gorgeous. So what I am going to do is play down my... do I want to play down my 4th Tynamo? Because in case that one doesn't get knocked out, then I'm at 4 Tynamo and I'm at very limited bench space. So what I actually think I'm going to do is hold on to this Tynamo for the time being. Get rid of the AZ and the Ultra Ball to grab a... Do I want to grab another Raikou? Actually, I think I'm going to grab a Shaymin maybe. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab a Shaymin. I mean, the thing is, like, that hand was amazing, but it just was too many good things. Like, I just had too many things that I could use to where it's like, oh, I'm going to have to discard a bunch of those in the process, and wow. So this is nice. What I am going to do is just hold on to the computer search for the time being, because if the active Tynamo does go down, I can always play another one down. I have the 2 electrics to evolve. I have a computer search to get me a supporter. And yeah, I mean, this was beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful hand. A perfect start. Even though we are going second, my opponent will probably actually be able to knock out my Tynamo if he's able to get his Deoxys out of the active spot. We do see the Skyfield come into play. Not a huge deal. It's actually a lot nicer for me because it frees up some more bench spots should I want to play down like Seismitoad or Jolteon or something like that, because Jolteon is actually going to be really clutch in this matchup, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to use it or not, because, I mean, yeah, Jolteon is super helpful, but at that point you're kind of mixing the prize trade, or you're kind of mixing between attacking with EXs and focusing on the prize trade, and I think that the best way to win this matchup is just to focus on the prize trade. Now, I will 100% admit that I am not the most... I'm not the most familiar with the expanded Plasma matchup. In fact, I'm not the most familiar with this deck in expanded, just because I really don't play it. I don't play this deck that much at all in expanded. In fact, this is... I mean, I tested with it, and now I'm playing with it right now. So I'm not super experienced, but I think the best way to go about this is to just play off the prize trade game. And yeah, I'm going to be able to bring in computer search, probably just grab a Sycamore. You know, I could have grabbed a Maxie's, but the thing is, like, I didn't have any way of getting my Gallade in the discard pile, so a little bit unfortunate right there. But I mean, Gallade would have been nice for just one-shotting the Thundurus, but that's about it. So Gallade's helpful, but not super necessary. And this is nice, because what I can do, Trainers Mail, grab a VS Seeker, that works. I have 2 Lightning in the discard pile to be able to use Dynamotor. Let's go ahead and grab the... Do I want to grab the Rough Seas? Yeah, let's go ahead and go with that. Let's play the Mewtwo down, because the Mewtwo could actually help out with the Deoxys or my opponent's Lugia getting powered up too much. Play the energy onto the Tynamo, that way I can manually retreat it. Dynamotor onto my Raikou twice to be able to hit for 120 damage onto this Keldeo. And yeah, I actually think I'm in a good spot. Let's retreat into the powered up Raikou, evolve up my other Eelektrik Dynamotor onto my Raikou, I think, just to have that thing start getting powered up as well. Do I want to play the Rough Seas? Yeah, let's play the Rough Seas, because while my opponent will be able to take advantage of it with the Keldeo, I don't want him to be able to, like, play down more Deoxys or another Shaymin or something like that, because at this point, let's see, 140, 150, 60, 70, minus 20. So my opponent's Lugia is actually 10 damage short. I did not want to allow him to be able to knock out my Raikou in one shot with Lugia. So playing the Rough Seas, even though his Keldeo is able to take advantage of it, keeps him from being able to play down that last Deoxys, which does give him a knockout onto my Raikou. So my opponent is just going to go into Thundurus. He's going to Ride Knuckle. This is actually a very smart play, because I won't be able to knock out the Thundurus. Do I have a Lysandre? No, I do not. That's unfortunate. I'm going to have 10 damage on my Raikou, which is going to allow my opponent's Lugia to actually take the knockout next turn. However, what I think I'm going to do, go ahead and Sycamore, get rid of the... Actually, you know what? Hex Maniac probably would have been a better play. Either way, I mean, I just went for it because I wanted to have another hand, and I think I win this if I can just keep consistently attacking. So what I am going to do, hit that Thundurus for 120 damage. Yes, my opponent's Lugia is going to be able to knock me out this turn, but I actually think I'm in a better spot. So, I mean, it was very difficult last turn. In fact, I probably should have just Hex Maniac'd to keep my opponent from being able to rush in and retreat, keep my opponent from being able to knock out my Raikou in one hit. But I don't know. I'm very, very torn on whether that was the right play or not. Because while I did get another hand, and while I do have an end to be able to knock out my opponent, to put my opponent down to 4, while simultaneously being able to knock out this Lugia next turn, my opponent will actually have nothing else going, and I'll have another Raikou powered up. So yeah, he takes 2 prizes. I'm going to put him down to 4 cards with this N. And I'm promoting Mewtwo because I want to be able to Dynamotor onto my Raikou on the bench. So what I am going to do, play the Lightning right onto the... I want to play it onto the Raikou just to hit for a bunch of damage. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Do I want to play Seismitoad? Not yet. I kind of want another Raikou. Let's play the end, see what else I can get. I get the Gallade. That's not particularly helpful. And I get another Eelektrik. That's not useful at all. That's just discard fodder at this point because I have 3 Electrics already on the field. I am just going to go ahead and triple Dynamotor onto my Raikou because that's going to be able to... Because that's going to be able to knock out the Lugia, knock out the Thundurus, and knock out the Keldeo with the damage that's left on it. Let's Thunder Lance, knock out this Lugia, and now we are hitting for 160 damage. We get another Raikou, so that is very, very nice. And yeah, now we're even in prizes. Big difference. I have a fully powered up Raikou and a fully set up board with Eelektrik and a Mewtwo in case my opponent decides to power up a Deoxys. Because a Deoxys can... Actually, well, can he one-shot? Let's see, 30, 180, yeah, 160. I should not have put that 5th energy onto the Raikou. Actually, should I have? Because 160, yeah, I should not have put that 5th energy onto the Raikou because Deoxys with a Prism and a Plasma Energy will be able to knock me out. However, I think, well, my opponent just ends too, so I do lose the Raikou and the couple DCEs that I had in my hand. I need to be careful about attaching the DCEs to Mewtwo because those guys are going to be pretty scary. Ooh. Muscle Band goes onto the Kyurem. Let's see. Hex Maniac is there. I think the play... So my opponent is just going to go ahead and heal up his Thundurus. He's going to ride Knuckle. That's fine with me. I'll be able to take a knockout on this Thundurus now while healing up my Raikou. And yeah, he is powering up a Kyurem in the background, but what I think... Okay... So that's going to be able to hit for 150 again. Just like the Lugia, it's going to be able to hit for 150. I'm going to play my other Raikou down. Rough Seas up, get 10 damage. Be 10 damage away. And then I'm not going to make the same mistake this time. I'm going to Hex Maniac. Because this way, even though it cancels out my Shining Body, my opponent can only hit for 140 at most. Well, unless he plays like Kukui or Plus Power or something like that. But... with what he has on the board, my opponent can only hit for 150 at the most, meaning that my Raikou is actually going to be able to survive this turn and be able to knock out the Kyurem even after it goes for Blizzard Burn. So this is very nice. My opponent does eventually heal his Keldeo up completely. Not a huge deal. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a perfectly fine position. I can potentially Hex Maniac again if I want to. But I think what I'm going to do is Battle Compressor, get some more... Brings up the Mewtwo. That's actually fine with me, because now my Kyurem gets completely healed. I can just retreat my Mewtwo if I draw into a DCE. Or Float Stone. Float Stone definitely works too. I'm going to finally get rid of that stupid Gallade. And then... get rid of both lightning just so I can play those onto... just so I can Dynamotor those onto a Raikou later. Let's actually AZ up. So I don't need to Hex Maniac. I'm going to AZ up my Mewtwo, pseudo heal up all of that damage, play the Electric, or play my Raikou active, and now I'm not sure if I'm going to play the Mewtwo. Because, I mean, as long as I don't put energy on it, it should be fine. But I want to save the Float Stone in case my opponent tries to, like, Lysandre stall or something like that. So, I'm going to hold on to the Mewtwo, heal up that last 10 damage from my Raikou, and then knock out this Kyurem, hit it for 160, and be in a position to win the game next turn. So my opponent has to end me. And, okay, if my opponent ends me, I should have played the Float Stone onto something. That way I could have, that way I could be able to Dynamotor onto my benched Raikou and then just retreat into it. So I think, okay, my opponent does play the Prism onto his Deoxys. He plays the Hex Maniac. That is going to be big. That's actually really big, because I won't be able to Dynamotor if my opponent has the Chorus Machine to be able to knock out my Raikou. So this is actually a pretty scary spot. Although my opponent's, I mean, I feel like if my opponent had the Chorus Machine, he would have gone for it by now. But I mean, unless he's just slow playing me, which is definitely a possibility. Unless he's slow playing me. I think we're going to be able to survive this turn, get a large hit off on the Keldeo, and go from there. If I had one more lightning, I'd be able to knock out this Keldeo in one hit. But I think my opponent is trying to decide if he should retreat into his Deoxys or leave Keldeo or something like that. Because at this point, if I draw another lightning, I win. My opponent doesn't know that I don't have another lightning, and I draw into the Jolteon. So what I am actually going to do, go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the Raikou and the Rough Seas, just so I don't draw into those later. Yeah, just confirming I don't have any more lightning. There are a couple DCEs though, so I'm going to grab the Seismitoad, just fish something out of my deck for later. And then I don't think my opponent has anything at this point, so I'm probably just going to attack. Yeah, I'm just going to attack the Keldeo. Unfortunately, 10 damage short of winning right there. That's not a huge deal because my opponent probably doesn't have anything. And I mean, worst case, he just tries to switch around it. And then eventually, I'm going to be able to knock out the Keldeo. He does have the Deoxys. Or, I mean, he obviously has the Deoxys. He had it on the bench. He does have the Plasma Energy. So he will be able to retreat into his Deoxys. One-shot my Raikou. And actually, I win. Because what I can do at this point, my opponent will be able to take a prize, but I can promote my, actually I'll probably just promote an Electric, because now that 5 Lightning Energy are in the discard pile, I'm going to be able to win with Mewtwo. I'm going to be able to Dynamotor 3 energy onto Mewtwo, and then X-Ball the Deoxys for the game, because the Deoxys does have 2 energy on it. So I win at this point. My opponent is... Don't know what's taking him so long with picking the prize. I mean, it could be that my opponent is now suffering from bad internet connection, which is a big possibility. But I do win right here because even though 5 Lightning Energy just went into the discard pile, this is how strong Electric is. Because, okay, yeah, my Raikou that was loaded up with energy just got knocked out. Well, guess what? I'm going to be able to get that right back. Well, not all 5 energy, but I'm going to be able to get that energy right back on the board with Dynamotor. Let's go ahead and Dynamotor 3 times on to my Mewtwo. Be able to X-Ball this Deoxys for the game. And yeah, I mean, Mewtwo, I kind of played it down early just in case a situation like this came up. It got Lysandred up. I was able to AZ, completely heal it. And Mewtwo is going to X-Ball the Deoxys for the victory. And we will win, drawing into our last DCE. So that was a very good game. I mean, I misplayed a couple different times, just like not playing Hex Maniac or doing different things, maybe putting too much energy on one thing, or, well, I guess putting too much energy on the Raikou and then not playing the Hex Maniac instead and playing Sycamore. So Couple misplays here and there, but that just comes with my inexperience with the deck. It's still a very, 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 very cool deck, so big shout-outs to the person who made this. And I mean, it's very awesome. I love all the little tech ideas, and unfortunately, Mewtwo was really the only one I got to show off, but Mewtwo's kind of a staple in Raikou Eelektrik anyway. Well, not really a staple, but it's very commonly thrown in cards. So I didn't get to use Seismitoad or Gallade, but those are still two very, very solid cards that come in handy in a lot of matches, particularly with all the dark decks running around. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.